what a start to our afternoon it's been for Judge Mimi and I. I am joined by the incomparable, the amazing, the kookiest, loco human being I've ever met, Miss Judge Mimi. Hi, how are you?
What a great intro. I couldn't say it better myself. This is great.
Is
Well, nice meeting you again, Thomas.
Meanwhile, this is the cheer analyst. So we're live, finally. We had a couple of technical errors, but when there's a will, there's a way, and we're good to go. I'm really excited too. Let's talk about scoring. Before we talk about scoring, let's talk about what competition we're even going to talk about scoring. So, for those that are new here, Judge Mimi and I are going to be reviewing the comparative scoring method for the USASF score sheet, which is what the majors is scored on, which is what Judge Mimi and I are going to be breaking down next weekend. But we thought it would be smart to have a pre breakdown, so to speak, where we could compare teams where you can compare United versus the USASF score sheet. So there's no confusion going into it because there are a couple of key differences between the United score sheet and the USASF score sheet. And Judge Mimi and I both agreed if we could alleviate some concerns we know that are going to be there before the competition even starts, that will help make sure there's not a lot of confusion going into the majors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. You said it best. There's so many differences between the comparative system and the united scoring system that making that switch is just something that needs to be spoken about
I
before we
agree.
get into the team breakdown so that it's very clear in people's mind what we're talking.
I 100% agree. So, we, Judge Mimi and I, on our social media platforms, put out questions, saw what people were curious about for United scoring and USASF scoring. Why don't we dive into some of those questions and then we can bring up points that we thought were important for everyone to know as well?
Yeah, totally. I think if we can maybe we do a little bit of an overview of like the different cheer philosophy.
Oh,
Like
I love
there's
that. Yeah,
on
let's.
like one side we have like our comparative system and on the other side we have the rubric, which is the united scoring system, and
Yeah,
those two philosophies you build routine very differently for those two. So I
yeah.
think like that's where I would love to start if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Could you imagine if I said no? That's not okay
Yep.
with me.
Nah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get my light right.
Yeah. So on
Half
my
my
let
day should
me let me
start.
start with the comparative
Yes,
system.
please.
The comparative system is the one that is used as at World. So SF World, ISF World. It is also used in Canada. So if you're judging in Canada like I am, we use a comparative system every single weekend or a version of the comparative system. So it is a little bit different between the USASF and the ISF comparative system. The weight of certain category is different, but the main philosophy is the following. You're going to compare team, you're going to rank them, and then as a judge you're going to start giving out scores, and it's always going to be the same thing. We're always going to first compare, then rank, then give out scores. Whereas the rubric system, so the united scoring system is a rubric, summit is on a rubric, and ca national is on a rubric, so is jamfest. This is more of a system that tells you what needs to be in your routine, and there's specific points that are associated with things you can do. And so you're going to find that on the rubric system, if you do X, you're going to get a set number of points. And so it's not the same as a comparative where we compare, we rank, and then we give you point. It's not
Yeah,
you do this, you get this.
yeah. Okay, what questions were on your social media that you got? Because I had some on mine that I wanted to bring up as well.
Yeah, one of the big, so I got three here. One was more of a why. Um, how can they ensure no favoritism with the comparative scoring method was one of the questions we received.
That's a good question. What would your answer be?
I think this whole favoritism thing, I think whether you're on a comparative or a rubric system, it's going to be like I would say the same answer. It's not one judge judging you, it's a full panel. So the fact
That's
that
right.
you're having seven judge, two looking at your building, one looking at your overall, and then one deduction, one legality just makes for more varied opinions. And I think this helps like lower down maybe a judge that likes this team, a judge that doesn't like this team. It kind of like brings all of the opinion like back to the center because there's so many of us on panel.
I agree. And you and I have been on a panel together. Not only have
Mm,
we been on panels, we've done it together and I couldn't agree more. It's not just one, for those of you that are watching, it's not just one person that dictates the score for the entire team. It's actually a panel of judges, a building judge and or excuse me, a difficulty judge, someone that's job is just to count the amount of stunts that are being performed in the routine. And then there's another judge whose job is just to see how well those stunts were executed. And then same with tumbling. There's a judge who looks at how many tumbling passes were thrown, and there's another tumbling judge who looks at how well those tumbling passes were thrown. I do want to bring something up which is overall, which brings a lot of questions, and that is actually your specialty.
it is,
Because
yeah.
that's a little bit different than having a person that dictates the difficulty and the execution. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. We sometimes say like the overall judge is a little bit on their like lonely island. They're like the solo judge. They don't have someone to talk head judge too. At the end of the day, I like you've been on panel with me. At the end of the day, team's name and so on, and we have a job to do. And if you do your job well, you're going to be rebooked. And so I think people just have a really great integrity and love the sport and want to do like well for the kid,
Yeah,
and be fair.
I do. And that actually is a good segue into one of the questions I had, which is someone asked about how overall is judged in the first place. And another question was, are facials judged? Which I does go into the overall impression of all the categories, but overall especially.
Yeah. Say that again. The facials
Yeah,
judged.
our faces, they asked how facials were judged.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so that would be part of probably the showmanship category, which is a 5 point category on the comparative system. Showmanship is more than just facial. I would say there's a bit of a shift this year in showmanship to body energy. Also, I think someone can have really great facial expression and really like be really lively, but if they're not lively also in their body, that does affect your showmanship. So let's just make sure that when we're talking about facials or when we're thinking about the question,
Oh, I love that.
confidence, and then the like of what you're leaving as an impression, the lasting impression.
I love that, the lasting impression, which really are all just fundamentals of cheerleading. Being
Mhm.
entertaining, making sure that the crowd evokes emotion, and whether or not you've been cheering for 2 seconds or 2 decades or 20 years, it doesn't really matter. The heartbeat of cheerleading is to make sure that the people in the audience feel something, that you're evoking emotion in the people that are watching in, and making sure you're bringing them into your story.
Exactly. And it's going to be the same, like whether you're a novice team or whether you're world's team, we're looking at showmanship with the same lens. As a judge, I'm looking for the same. eye contact with the public, confidence, and like fun, love of the sport. Like I'll be looking for the same thing, and that doesn't change, you know?
Which just brings up a good point about choreography differences or style differences and little things like that. And I know that people ask questions like, are those things criticized? Are they,
Hmm.
is it good? Is it bad? Is a shimmy good, or is a slap clean, classic traditional cheerleading good? What is good, or what are they looking for? I know my
Yeah.
opinions.
Well, maybe we start with your opinion. Let's start there, and then I'll tell you what we heard like as like our guidelines.
Yeah, when I'm judging, I have my own internal preferences for how I like to watch cheerleading. As a fan, as someone that enjoys cheerleading, I have my own preferences. As a judge, I'm going based off of what I was told to look for. Do they have good eye contact? Do they have genuine enthusiasm? Are they punching their motions instead of placing? Regardless of what their choreography is, this is what it is. I hold your choreography to the same standard regardless of what it looks like, or hold all styles to the same standards of cleanliness and sharpness. And all athletes, regardless of who choreographed the routine, need to make eye contact and have genuine enthusiasm and sell their routine and give their heart and soul to it, regardless of what the choreography is. That's my judging philosophy.
Definitely. You're onto something. Like my what I say to myself, like when I'm judging and I see something, a stylistic choice that might not be my choice that I would have made when I was a coach or when I was cheering, I tell myself like, okay, what can I take from this stylistic choice and how can I maybe just immerse myself in their decision to see like the perfection level of perfection of that choice that they made, right? So whether you decide to go and do your jump with like a T or lower so that your legs look higher or in front of you or your approach is high, it doesn't matter for me because that's a stylistic choice.
Yep.
And then I just look at, okay, removing the stylistic choice, how are you executing it? And does it still fit with those guidelines of cheerleading, of precision and power and fun?
I love that. Now, I had talked to you before about wanting to discuss, especially the building difficulty and what that
Yeah.
looks like on the United score sheet and the USASF score sheet, because this is a high area for contention every year. Um, we could spend hours talking about this, but we need to bring
You and I for sure.
Yes, we need to break down what the difference is between building difficulty in the United score sheet system and in the USASF score sheet system. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's let's start by giving like a picture of why building is so important. But on the USASF score sheet, building is 53% of your score sheet. So you should, when you're looking at a routine, you should see almost 53% of the routine being building skills. Those are tosses, stunt, and pyramid. And so there's a lot of points put on there. And so there's going to be a lot of time spent up in the air in your stunt looking at stuff like difficulty and execution. When we're thinking about difficulty and execution, I like to say it's the what you're doing versus the how you're doing it. That's your difficulty, and on the other side, it's your execution. So
Mhm.
what versus how, and the difference is it's pretty big. So on the United scoring system, it's um it's a prescribed system. So they're telling you exactly what they want to
That's
see.
right.
They're gonna tell you we need four skills that are elite if you want to make it to the top scoring points, or you need three skills in your category. You need X amount of skill, and so there's always a certain set amount of skills that is needed for you to score a set amount of points. On the comparative system, though, it's absolutely different. You need one skill of your level to actually make it into the range, and it's a range, right? So it's like there's numbers. Every single number is up for grab in this category. So I think I have my score sheet here. Okay, so on difficulty for stunt, if you want to open the high range, we don't call it the high range, but it's like the top score, you need to have a majority of your team perform at least one level appropriate skill. This is going to bring you in the 12 to 20 category. But then you have to move in, right? You want to like You want to move in?
Yes, hold on, explain, because this
Go
is,
ahead.
I think this is where people get confused with what, not what you said, but people
The
hear high
difference.
range, right? This needs to be underlined, scored in bold. There's no level appropriate docs for USASF.
Exactly.
And what is level appropriate on the United level appropriate documents where it says level appropriate, we're not referencing that level appropriate document when we're talking about USASF. So when you say you only need one level appropriate skill, we're talking about, can you
I'm
explain what
talking
that
about a
means?
skill of level. I'm not talking about the rubric. I'm not
There is no
talking like
rubric.
there's no rubric. So I'm not talking about level appropriate and then advanced and then the lead skill. I'm literally talking of anything that is newly legal in your level. So something that you couldn't do in the level previous to you, and that so it's like the first level you could do it at, that would be a skill of level that is level appropriate.
Okay, so that means by definition, a rewind to waist is level 6 because you can't do any free flipping skills in level
Exactly.
5. So a rewind to a waist level stunt, we'll say a sponge or a smush, whatever you call it in your part of the world, is actually going to have more weight than
Hmm.
an extended hand in hand to immediate heel stretch,
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. It
which is
feels like,
crazy,
yeah, exactly.
crazy. That a team could do an extended hand in hand, pop through, immediate stretch, pop again to like high to high stretch. And if the team that did a rewind to sponge went up to stretch and high to high, they're still going to have a higher weighted score because they did one of those level appropriate, because it's a true level appropriate.
Exactly. They were
Considering
able to move it in.
considering the team that did the extended hand in hand didn't do any rewinds, kick doubles, double ups, 1 3/4, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But you and I talked about something I think is really common is people go to worlds with, you had said it earlier, a routine built off of the United score sheet. And then their stunt difficulty at worlds especially is
Feels lower.
feels way, they feel like super low. And you and I had made an example about team A could do extended hand in hand, pop through, stretch, TikTok stretch, come down, choreography, 1.5 up, immediate scorpion, um, like go to prep level, full twisting tick to opposite stretch, TikTok airbest double down. And then another team could do rewind to sponge, go to prep, choreo, up, lib, kick double,
Like kick
re-
double twisting dismount.
yes, kick double, then just look, go to a sponge, 1 3/4 up to arabesque, bump down, and then maybe you could double up to 2 feet. They did less things, but that would have so much more weight because every skill was a true level 6 appropriate skill.
Exactly. Yeah. And in the comparative system, there is like every single decision you're going to make in your stunt is going to have an impact on your score. So, for example,
Right, love that.
um, on the United scoring system, whether you do like a slow 360, like a half and a half going up, right? So you do a half turn, a full 360 up,
Yeah,
it's scoring the same on the United scoring system, but not on the comparative system.
go
One is
on.
harder than the other. So, like those decision of like, are we putting a front spot? No, front spot is harder. Less people under a stunt is harder, and this has no weight currently on the United scoring system. Removing people, technique, style, and decision pace of a stunt, for example, like combining your element really quickly, it doesn't, you don't have points for that on the United scoring system. And that's where the comparative system is telling you all of those decisions you're making, you're actually going to be rewarded for it.
You
And I
are.
love that.
I love that too. And I think that if you play your cards right, sometimes you can actually score higher with something that might seemingly not be more difficult. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if people are smart, they're paying attention to what is a true level 6 skill so they can break into that 12 to 20 range. And can you help explain, doing a level 6 skill doesn't mean you automatically get a 20 in building difficulty?
No, exactly. It just like do, and you need a majority of your team that is doing a level 6 skill for the purpose of majors. Like if we
Yeah.
were to look at ISF, it could be like a level 5 because there's level 5 team at Worlds, level
Yeah,
7.
yeah.
But for the majors, we're talking about level 6 specifically. Like when the majority of your team does that a skill that is division, you can never have the same score.
Thank
There
you
is
for saying that.
no place there is no place in the comparative system to pick the same score. There's always going to be one person that is better, one person that is lower. And that could be you're doing the exact same stunt, but then your transition was 2 count quicker. You're going ahead. You get that top score.
How
Comparative is brutal.
I know I have a question, and I'm just curious how in the past we've seen identical scores in difficulty at majors, especially actually. Only at this competition, we've seen scores where in difficulty in building or like in pyramids, but difficulty especially, we'll see teams with the same difficulty scores. Do you think that's just like a simple oversight?
I think it might be the only place where I could see the exact same score would probably be in like this year jump difficulty and execution were split. So it used to be a combined score, 5 points combined. Now it's 5 point for execution, 5 point for difficulty. And then in that, I could see for difficulty and jump, the
Sure.
amount of
Yeah.
toe touch pike we're seeing, like I could see that if they have the exact same percentage of the team out of a team of 36, there's 6 that are not doing it, 30 that are doing double toe pause and then something else, choreography in between, and then the pike. You could have the exact same score. But other than that, the things that are being asked of judges is to pick a way to differentiate these guys. And like we're talking about jumps right now because it's an easy category
Sure.
to grasp. But
Yeah.
even your like pace of movement before, between, after adding a fourth jump, angles of your hip, are you turning in a bunch of different directions? That could actually be the thing that tips you over, you know? Or
I
instead
do
of
that.
going toe, toe, pike, you might go toe, toe, and then pike on the side. And then next thing you know, you did a quarter turn there, you're higher. Could be.
But no, no, no. These are the kinds of strategies and the kinds of things that I think I want to shine light on, because these aren't this isn't a secret. It's just playing the game smart, and little adjustments like
Yeah.
that, turning your hips a quarter where it can push you over the line, especially when these athletes, they compete at the highest level of the sport. They
Oh, yeah.
compete at they're true professionals. They are professional
It is the
athletes.
Super Bowl of cheerleading.
Yes, the
Let's be
majors,
frank. Yeah.
the majors especially, is it's invite only. These are the top cheerleaders in the world. So you are fighting for every point one, every 0.001. And if it means you're going to turn your pike, there are coaches that understand that those little decisions, that was a really good word, those kinds of decisions and those strategies can help push your team over. I love that.
Hmm. And like every single team has a strategy. You cannot come on the comparative system being like, my strategy is to max out everything. Like there's 2.5 minutes, you're gonna have to pick a strategy. And you and I looked at our first like four, like the last performance of our large senior all
Yeah,
girl, their performance, and like just looking at their strategy, when the number are all down, you see the strategy. It's
that's right.
very obvious.
Yes.
Like I was looking at the tumbling for senior elite and I was like, that's their strategy. Here
Yes.
they are. They have like like 25 more passes in standing than anybody else. I'm like, it's their strategy, you know?
It and then there's like a Panthers who does like every kind of inversion humanly possible.
Yeah,
They
and they're
do
giving
like
us variety, and
they are.
variety is a strategy.
Correct, and that's their strategy. Then you have an orange who is going to be so well executed, it's incredibly hard to beat. It's almost
Hmm.
unbeatable, their execution.
Yeah, totally. And they're also doing really, really hard tumbling, which I was surprised they're doing larger group. And so they're going for percentage of participation, which I thought was another really interesting strategy. Instead of throwing all single passes, they're going group of eight at a time, and it's harder to sync. You're going to get more difficulty there.
And then you have someone like a World Cup shooting stars who I noticed actually this year, especially in their pyramid, put so many combinations. They have
Hmm.
end of their pyramid, they do like a rewind, immediate full and a half up, then it bumps down to a hand in hand quarter invert to a hitch, bump down, immediate waterfall, all in one
The
count.
pace.
Yes, they're going
Yeah.
their strategy is pace and putting those skills all on top of each other. So you're right. It's cool to see how the four large senior teams are what their strategy is.
And like you need to come in with a strategy. You cannot put more than 2.5 minutes. So it's like, how do I use my 2.5 minutes to the best of my ability so that I'm maximizing those scores? Pyramid is one where it's going to be really interesting this year. Like those pyramids, I find that sometimes start to look a little bit alike. Let the switch over, changing bases, like we've seen that in a couple of routine, and I'm like, I'm interested to see how it's going to play out.
I am too because speaking of pyramids, Senior Elite does that like it goes like this, they toss over and then the girls do a brace shoulder sit. How is that
Oh
I know
yeah,
it's legal because the base is holding the foot, so it is she's being touched, but they do that like three-quarter up to it almost looks like a three high pyramid. It's like a shoulder
it
sit
does. Yeah, yeah,
top
yeah.
of the prep, and then they backflip off. I want more of that. I want
Seriously, level 6 is such an interesting level to watch just for that level of creativity, knowing that there is a level 7 above level 6 in terms of difficulty that has very different requirements. Like, you can do so much more with the 2.5 high pyramid, with like the twisting and flipping, like rewinds and so on. And so, seeing how they're taking stuff that could be of level 7, but doing it connected for a level 6, I am mind blown looking at videos like, how is this legal?
how are judges, I mean, we know how. If we could break down how are judges comparing pyramids on the panel, are we talking about it? Are we just writing it on a paper? What does the comparison conversation look like for all levels? Because this translates to all the levels.
Yeah, definitely. Like we script, so we script a ton. Like there's a
Yes.
ton of scripting happening in Pyramid because Pyramid is some place where it's a gray area. Even on the United scoring system, it is a range. So it's like you do structure and then you move into the range, and it's a bit more comparative in there. Um, a lot of notes, and then I would say a lot of conversation. There's so much happening that you just need time to break it down and look at your pace, look at your transitions, look at their stuff, and mainly in like a large category, like large senior, there's stuff happening in the front, in the back, on different angles, going like side to side and so on. So just taking your time, I would say. And then yes, talking about it. It's like,
Yeah.
what did you see? What did I not see? You know?
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know what the word scripting means, scripting is a judge's word, which means you write down the skills. So if you're scripting something and you're scripting stunting, aka building, that means you are the judge and you write down, okay, senior elite did 9 rewinds. They did 9 TikToks, and you're writing down scripting every single skill. Same with tumbling. Okay, orange did two to doubles, they did 15 two to whip doubles, da 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 da, and that person's writing it down. Then you take those scripts, those notes, and you say, I saw this. Did I miss anything? And someone said, oh, yeah, there was a basket in the back of running and tumbling. You probably didn't see that, which is things
Yeah.
like that.
Totally. The more you do it, the less thing you miss, right? Because your eye is more trained, your brain
That's
is
right.
more like, oh,
That's
like
right.
you're able to like catch a little bit more. It's almost like for judges that are judging at the world's level, it's almost like they are referees for like the NBA,
Yeah.
right? They had to do the minor leagues, they made it through, they went through and they built their career, and then they can finally go and be a referee in the NBA. It is the same thing for judges for judging at World or judging the major. They went up through the rank and they have a lot of experience under their belt before they get to this like major panel.
So there's that.
Fun. Shout out judges.
You want to know something
I,
else? A random thing. Well, it's not random, but since we're talking about difficulty and comparative, did you know that a front to full is level appropriate in level 6 for worlds?
a front to
Punch front, round
full.
off back handspring full.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about stunt. I was like, I don't
I
know what
know
a front
that's
to full is.
switching gears.
Yes. Yeah, no, I saw this just this week actually on the score sheet. I was printing this the score sheet to like just refresh my mind because World was a while ago, right? It's
Yeah.
the beginning of the season. And so we're still like, okay, like what's new? What do we need to catch up on? And on the USASF scoring system, there is a note actually that says a flipping tumbling skill in addition to a full twisting tumbling skill within the pass will be considered level appropriate. And then their example are the punch front, round off back handspring full,
And a whip
which
through.
I was like, and a round off Arabian round off back handspring full, etc. Some
A
more.
flip through
But
to a
it's
full.
exactly, it's so interesting because I wouldn't cons- well, it is still a pretty hard skill.
And I have,
Connecting
okay,
really well.
speaking of comparative, and I think this is where people get confused. What is more, 24 front to fulls or 20 round off back handspring doubles?
So 24 or 20.
Tw- 24 round off back handspring fulls versus 20 round off back handspring doubles. Front through to full. 24
Oof.
punch front, round off back handspring full. Well, we're gonna say they were both cumulative. So they weren't, we'll just for the sake of.
Yeah, that's a tricky one because like okay, how many we're assuming those two teams have the exact same amount
Yes, we're
of
just gonna
people.
say they're all same
Okay.
people, all the same things.
Yeah. And it's all cumulative. Man, that's close. That would be a close one for sure. It would be something that we would probably discuss on panel because I think it would go down to like if you say cumulative, like is anybody done like a larger set group section that is doing this together and then that might tip you over. But because there's not a lot of difference between those two, it's like similar number-ish, hard-ish skill. I would probably go with the double full
I
just
would
because
go with the
it's
double fulls too.
but
I
then
would
it's
go,
like
my
give me
justification.
24 like 20 cumulative 24 punch round of full like round of handspring full, but then give me a group of like 12 that does that, and then the other 20 is just one, then
Yeah,
I might tip on the other side because 10 you have to think like the first punch front, the step out, the
yeah, yeah.
round of the hand, and like I think it might be harder
But then
because
you have,
percentage of participation is the one thing that is different on the comparative system, mainly in tumbling. Like this tips a lot of things over. How many people do you have per pass?
you know that on a for a fun fact, anyone watching that is a cheerleading history fan, you know, in 2011, a lot of people say that what tipped Cheer Athletics Panthers over the line because it was them and the California All Stars for first place in small senior, and Panthers had a team round off back handspring double section. So they had two simultaneous groups of 10 do round off back handspring doubles. And Lady Bullets didn't. Lady Bullets had the same amount of passes cumulatively through the routine, but
Yeah.
Panthers had two section, you know what I mean? Two simultaneous
Yeah.
groups.
Like larger group, larger participation
Yes.
number. all things. Yeah.
simultaneously. And a lot
Hmm.
of people still say that's what they attribute that to Panthers winning, and that could be what tipped them over because the difficulty in all the sections were so close. But
Yeah.
that just proves your point that 10, two groups simultaneously of 10.
Could be. Yeah. I love large group tumbling. I think in terms of strategy, it is a strategy I really like because not only one, it's harder on your difficulty, but two, it's taking less time, giving you more time back to do other things. So if you're like doing, if you have to do, let's say your 20 passes and you do them two group of 10, they're doing it all at the same time, all together. You've used two 8 counts for this,
Can
and then you can
so
move on.
and that's allowed at World. So you could say,
100%.
so let's say we're gonna make our own large senior team, large senior all stars. What do we call them? French, yeah, the French American, like French Canadian large senior. So Karma or something. When like Karma or Cheer Sport makes a large senior, that's the team we're talking about.
That'll be it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So they need to have squad tumbling to up the numbers, and
Mhm.
they can do it that way. Is what you're saying? Just look at.
Yeah. Like they could just do one pass, have the same number as everybody else, but then have like, let's say you're gaining all of those running tumbling counts back, and then you can do else like something else with
So
these. Then
so a
are you
team.
investing them in tumbling? Are you?
So because you could say like Canada All Stars, large senior, did 24 round off back handstring doubles at the same exact time in one 8 count. They just all simultaneously did it. And then their competitor did 24 cumulative. Not only did they score higher, Canada All Stars, but they also did it in way less time
Less time.
and are done for the whole routine.
Exactly. And you can have like more time to then be like, maybe I add one extra basket toss. That might be tipping me over. Maybe I have more time to do
That's
another
strategy.
transition and pyramid strategy. Hmm.
Because what you're saying, and this is your kind of where you love, is the okay, maybe we'll take our tumbling and we're going to shorten it. So we're going to have a huge tumbling pass altogether. And that gives us more time to have more intricate overall moments where it's ripples and choreography and transitions.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people say that the issue they have with cheerleading is everything looks the same, but from what you're saying and from what I know, it
Hmm.
shouldn't look the same.
No. And like I don't feel like it looks the same. And it's not just a question of theme. I hear a lot like, oh, but they don't have a theme. Are they gonna do well or whatever? I think everybody has a different strategy. Everybody has a different flavor. Like we're all like they all have moments that you're like, oh man, I'm gonna remember this or this is good. Woo!
Welcome back. That
Welcome
was a
back.
building fall for sure.
Definitely major.
Yes, that was a major
You know
building fall.
what? That's another thing we should talk about. We should talk about
Please,
deduction.
please,
Yeah.
you read my mind. Yes, let's talk
I'm like,
deductions.
yes, let's talk deduction. So deduction is another big one that is very different between United and the compare and the USSF comparative
That's right.
system. On the United scoring system, all of your deduction are like the max deduction you can get is like 1.5. And so 1.5 out of 100 is would be the max you could get. Whereas on the comparative system, you can get a 4, a -4 out of 170, which is still like more point, but still -4. Like your basket difficulty is a 5. Like you could like you do basket, then you have one like major building fall. You shouldn't have done basket, right? Like it's worth a lot. Like the weight of it is worth a ton of money.
Um, okay, this ties into deductions and execution and difficulty, all three at once. A team does 9 double ups, but 2 fall. Did they do 9 double ups or 7 double ups? That's exactly what I would have said. Um, what about incomplete rotations?
Oh yeah. Um, we mostly find this one for like basket toss and cradles. So like if they're incompleting, then they get a deduction. I think it's in bobbles. I would have to double check. What do you think?
An incomplete, well,
Incomplete
my counter
transition.
question to that is, are you counting, is that going towards, let's say I did a round off back handspring double, but I didn't make it all the way around. Is that counted as a double with the execution off, or is that not counted as a double full?
Mm. They I it wouldn't count as a double full. Like if you're not
That's what I would say
completing
as well.
your like if you're not completing your rotation, one, it's a safety issue. It is very dangerous. Like you're falling like like you could scorpion yourself like falling on a cradle that way. Like it could be really really hurtful. So I think it's a safety issue also, and like most of the deduction system is there to prevent any safety issue. It's there to like protect the athletes so that there's nothing in the routine that would be there and they would be like, this never hits, but let's go for it, like it's just for safety of athletes. It's there so that people are like, you know what, like we're gonna lose too much if we're gonna do it, so let's only put on the floor routines that are safe.
Yeah, my favorite thing you
No, I
said it.
agree.
So for tumbling, you have to land on your feet.
You
For
do.
start,
Yeah.
for tumbling, you're gonna have to land on your feet for starters to start.
Yeah. We see it less in like a level 6, for example, but we see it more in like a level 1. I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say they go like a front walkover, but they go to their seat. So they're like doing kind of a Valdez position. Whew, that's not like a front walkover because they finished not on their feet, they finished on their like butt. And then they kick over, they go, let's say, to a bridge, and then they kick back. They never completed that skill because they never released their hand and were just on their feet. So like they might score 0 there, even though there was technically tumbling and it was creative, but it's not on feet, it's not without hand releasing. So like sometimes it just reduces your score. It might look cool, but it might not score well.
What about when a team doesn't grip on accident? Let's say your prep group falls in the middle and you do a front full and
Hmm.
you're unbraced because it's just muscle memory and you went for it. What do we
True.
do with that?
Yeah. That's, well, it depends if it's a deduction or not, because sometimes like you may have two bracer and you only need one by the rule, but it might look better to have two bracer in terms of like maybe your rotation. Like if you only have one bracer, you might be turning like
Let's say it was
twisted. So
level
like,
4 and
and you
one
needed,
side fell. So you flipped on
gotcha.
and you just didn't even, you just went for it and weren't, that's normal. We see kids do it all the time where
Hmm.
it's fast paced and they just dip and they just backflip and they didn't even realize that the other prep group wasn't there.
Yeah. That's an out of level skill. So that
Yeah,
would be a
it's
-1. Yeah. They changed the scoring system this year, the deduction system this year a little bit so that um things that are unsafe are like if a routine is deemed unsafe or you're doing an element that is completely illegal in all levels, or is very unsafe, then it's a -4 deduction. But if it's something that is out of level, just like one level up, for example, to level up, then you get an out of level skill, but per occurrence, which is different than like previous year. I would say previous year, people were getting warnings, but not changing their routine. And so they would get warning, 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 warnings the whole like way through. And then they would get to, let's say, summit or worlds, and then they would get like the warning would be an actual legality rule. Whoa, whoa, we never got point deducted for this. And it's like they'd never read their warning. Whereas this time it's like it's just applied. If it is a deduction, it's there, it's on your score sheet, and it's applied by occurrence.
so if you're a level 6 team and you are the center prep and you brace a girl on each side and she does a full, right? Or they do a full, you do like back fulls and you fall and both groups just do a full, not, they can because they physically can, then it's one deduction per stunt group because it's one per occurrence.
Yeah, I think that's what it says in the new thing. Get out of level. Yeah, it does say deduction for each occurrence. But keep that in mind that I am not a legality certified judge, but this is what I've heard of how it would be applied. And so something to keep in mind, like it might be okay, one person fell and that's why two couldn't go, but it because it's the same skill and it's mirrored, it might be like that's one occurrence because it's one of the same problem. But if then they go back up and then they try to redo it again for like their next skill, then that might be two different occurrence, right? Because it's two different section. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to
Well,
see.
what are you looking forward to going into next weekend?
I think I'm just looking forward to unveiling those routine. I feel like I've seen snapshot of routine and I've heard of team that have a united version of their routine and then like a USSF comparative scoring version of the routine. And I'm just excited to see the actual version that we're probably going to see at World and seeing like the energy, the hard work that everybody's done and like how they're going to like really perform this at that moment side by side view, not in different competition, not in like just everybody in the same venue. What are you excited about?
The rivalries. This I do. I think we should talk about that as like no one talks about it openly, but I'm a sports fan, right? Cheerleading is a sport, and I love the rivalry
I
of
would
it all.
be I would be curious to hear what you're thinking because as a Canadian, I feel like I am a fan. Like I'm outside of the of that world, but you were part of this world before. So like how do you approach the rivalries? Like what is of interest to you?
I love it. I because I was on a team I competed on Wildcats against TGLC and I loved every second of it. And I know I speak for all the people that were on TGLC too. They loved it. It's just no great there's no great sports team, there's no great athlete that doesn't have a rival, that doesn't have someone that's on their heels, that they're constantly neck and neck with at every competition. And it's that pressure in any sport that creates these iconic sports moments. So when you put the pressure of being only one of four teams in the entire world, five with KC now, but only four are going to be at majors. You put the pressure of there's only four teams in the world in large senior, not in the United States, in the entire world at majors. There's five, but there will only be four. That's a lot of pressure, and I love it because that pressure creates some of the most iconic moments every single year. And I think that we shouldn't run from that and or say like it's bad that there's tension between teams when that's
Hmm.
sports. I don't think you should tear anyone down, and I'm not condoning bullying or this. That's not the discussion. But I think to try and make everything so soft and it not be okay that it's like there should be tension. They're rivals. They're and that pressure, that slow cooker should build up. And then on the major stage is when they let it all out. And as an American, I've watched large senior my entire life. And the way it works is those teams are out for blood. And I love it. They're out for blood. They know they're out for blood. All of the cheerleading industry is like bought into it. It's like a soap opera. It's like they're out
It
for
is.
blood. It is. It's like the Panthers are defending world champs. It's high drama. They have not had like the best like performances so far. That's the kind of drama I love. And it's like, okay, what's going to happen? Are they going to turn it out at the majors or what? And those questions, those moments, I think are what actually produce really good cheerleading, but people don't know how to have those conversations without it feeling like you're attacking anyone when it's like no, that pressure. Everyone wants to beat Panthers in large senior this year because they're the defending world champions. So
Hmm.
to not talk about that is simply ignoring something that's the elephant in the room. And I love watching the regardless if it's Panthers or Senior Elite or Stars or Orange. I love watching them when it's their year to defend the title. I love seeing how the drama unfolds and how the other teams like go all in to beat them. It's amazing television for anyone
It
watching.
is for
It
sure.
is. It's just drama. It's like And what's so cool is they're the best of the best, those the 38 girls on each of those teams. And it's rare that one of them wins every that they go undefeated in a season. You know what I mean? It's
That's
they've all
true.
done it,
Yeah.
but it's rare. So the drama every year of, well, seniors won NCA, but Panthers won this one, but Orange won majors, but Stars won cheer sport. It's like this back and forth, and what it is it's unpredictable, and that's what makes it so fun, because it's high talent, high entertainment, high pressure, and it's very unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen, and there's so many people competing on the floor. For 38 people to have no deductions is an act of God. That's my opinion on that. Okay, so I don't know how anyone else was trained, but I can see how we were trained, and it's laser focused. It's my Your eyes are down, they're right there, but we were trained to know they would be right there and to focus inward and make sure that that's where we kept our energy for the warm-ups. And there's no other way to say it. It's very high pressure. It's relaxed, but to say there's no pressure is, I believe that what makes those teams great, like what's the vibe like, is everyone just feels the pressure and isn't they use that to for the better. It's not a negative thing, but you can feel the pressure in the warm-up room, and you can feel how intense it is, and you can also feel how that actually pumps everyone up. That's what the vibe is like. It's almost like, put my competitors right in front of me and let's just freaking go right now.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
I
It's
know.
all unfolding like in less than 8 days
8
from
days.
now.
8 days we'll have new majors champions.
Yeah. I'm also excited about the package. Like the whole production of how they introduce team. Like I cannot wait to see what they come up with. This is hyping me up when I watch it.
I love that they do that because those kids deserve it. The athletes on
Hmm.
those majors teams, they're so deserving of that. They are the best of the best in our entire sport. I think they represent the entire sport of cheerleading so well, whether you are a level 1 athlete that just started last year or you're level 6 in another country. These teams inspire everyone all over the world, and I think that is really special. And the production
And when you
level,
think about, oh yeah, the production
yes,
level is great, but when you think about how old those kids are, it makes like this whole thing even like crazier. Like, what? Those are like teenager, young adult,
that's why. Oh, you and I have
It's
talked about
wild. We
this
always
before.
forget.
Yeah, we've talked about this. That's why I love those divisions the most, is because I have a deeper respect for it, not only because I did it myself, but because they're teenagers and they are
Hmm.
the best in the world. 90% of the best cheerleaders in the world are 18, like 14 to 18.
It's crazy. It's insane. And we're here to celebrate it.
And we're here to celebrate, and I am really excited, also most importantly going into the majors, to have you to break it down with and compare it with, because I believe we can be very positive in breaking it down and going right off of what we see, and it doesn't affect what we think of a team or a person specifically, but we are also able to have that conversation in a positive way that says this is the facts of what it looks like across the division.
Yeah, and you and I are so passionate about this that we start with love. It's always, we love this division. We love cheerleading, so might as well share the passion.
Yes, yes, exactly. Where
That's
can
excellent.
where can all of our guests find you outside of YouTube on the Cheer Analyst as a guest cheer analyst?
I'm a guest cheer analyst. I
Yeah.
love that.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
you're our Canadian anchor.
you're Canadian
Yeah,
cheer
you're our
analyst.
Canadian correspondent. Are you kidding me? Coming
That
live
is
from
so
Canada.
good.
This is our Canadian correspondent.
Literally live from Canada right now. People can find me on Instagram and on TikTok. I'm at judge.mimi. Um, and then I have a YouTube channel, but I don't really use it. Maybe I should start doing a bit more of that.
Yes, you
What
can
about
always
you?
come
Where
on.
can people find you?
Oh, you can find me at Cheer Analyst on any social media platform. Period.
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 Done.
Okay, this was so much fun. If anyone that's watching has any questions, feel free to leave a comment in this video. And we're going to have a pre show before the majors, and we will take all of the questions and answer them before the majors starts next week at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 4 Mountain Time, 5 Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're in another country, I don't know. I don't know
Good
the.
luck.
Yeah, good luck. Those are 4 times. Good luck with the timing. Judge Mimi, will see you next Friday.
You
Thank you so
will.
much for being here. You're the best.
Perfect. Bye bye. Have a
Okay,
great
bye.
weekend.